what has made me particularly interested in teaching this is that when I started this law firm 12 years ago, there was no social media marketing. There was you didn't have to be familiar with tech to run a law firm.
Sure.
But that tech has become such a part of our lives. And a lot of times seniors are not, educated about tech.
This is Matt Helton with OneTrust Home Loans, and we're your reverse mortgage experts. And you found the Serving Seniors podcast. So that's where we highlight those businesses and those individuals that help seniors not just survive and not just get by, but thrive in retirement. And today we have another one of those awesome people. We have Miss Barbara Moss, and Barbara specializes in helping seniors through those legal challenges and planning that come up in elder law. So she's going to share with you the pros, the cons, how it all works, and how she helps seniors thrive in retirement as well. Hey, Barbara, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Matt, and thank you for asking me to do this.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here, and thank you for working us in your schedule. And I was going to see if you could hit on a couple things. People love to hear the coming up story and the background and where you're from, and just kind of get to know people a little bit. So maybe share a little bit about your background that you were sharing.
I'm from Memphis.
Go ahead.
I'm from Memphis. Okay. I came to Vanderbilt undergraduate school in 1968.
Wow.
The 60s got to Vanderbilt in 1970, and I was a hippie.
Oh, my God.
And then after I finished undergraduate school with my degree in philosophy, I spent a couple of years on the job market working as a secretary and a waitress. And I said, wait a minute, I know how to go to school, and went back to Vanderbilt Law School and graduated in 1977 and was the first woman hired by any of the big downtown Nashville law firms.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a trial lawyer. And I was for a long time. I was a single mom and a trial lawyer for a long time. And then 20 years ago, I married a psychiatrist and psychoanalyst and discovered that they never retire.
Okay.
And the kind of work I had become best known for was defending employment cases. Those cases fell out of the big law firms and into insurance defense boutique law firms because of employment practices insurance. And so I had a minute to look around and decide what I wanted to do. And my head sort of popped up eventually, and I said, litigation is sort of stressful. So I looked around and saw that seniors were profoundly underrepresented in Nashville, and decided at age 63, 12 years ago, to start my own law firm, Elder Law of Nashville. And what I love about it is I get to take people's anxiety away. Not all of their anxiety, but at least their anxiety about the legal part, what they should be doing.
Wow. That is awesome. Well, that's a great mission that you have. Tell me a little bit about how that's gone. What's went really well. What were some challenges you didn't know when you started your own firm, and how you got through that?
Well, I'm a trial lawyer. I said, I'm going to start my own firm doing things I don't know how to do. So there was a big learning curve. This is actually I think it's the hardest law practice I've ever had. Okay. And to give you some background on that, I had the case of the first fully belted child killed by an airbag here in Nashville that was going to go to trial.
Wow.
And elder law is harder than that, because it involves everything that our clients need because of their age, not just one type of law, but estate planning, conservatorships, probate, Medicaid, Medicare, all those things are part of what we help people with.
Wow.
And we also help people with managing chronic conditions. And you'd be like, why is a law firm doing that? Well, because people often need a combination of legal services and help with managing a chronic condition. So we love our work, and our firm is sort of exploding. But what I want to talk about today is how the world is exploding with seniors being scammed.
Oh my gosh. Yes, ma'am.
And my law practice has exploded with seniors being scammed. So I've written down some notes. This is a complicated subject, too. The FBI has estimated that in 2004, elderly Americans lost $4.8 billion to scams. Now, that's just with the reported cases.
Right.
The Federal Trade Commission has said that they believe if everybody reported those cases, because we feel ashamed when we've been scammed, if everybody reported those cases, there would have been elderly Americans would have lost $81.5 billion in 2024. So it's a crazy world, and I really want to educate people about this.
Sure.
So the flip side of this, and I want everybody to know this too, in Asia, which is a big part of this problem, this is called pig butchering. So gangs and organized crime syndicates, primarily in Southeast Asia, think Cambodia, that part of China, Thailand, there are gangs, organized crime syndicates and gangs that are running these businesses. And a lot of times the workers have been kidnapped. They've been given fake jobs, they report, and then they're pretty much locked up. They're subject to abuse and even torture. So it's data-driven, it's technologically sophisticated, and it's psychologically trained. Now, scams have been around for a long time. But there have been some new additions that have made it blow up. Mm-hmm. So you might remember for quite a while there's been something called the grandparent scam, where a grandchild calls up and says, "Oh, I've been locked up. I need money. Can you please send me money?" But there's a new addition, deep fakes.
Okay.
Now there's an ability for tech to manufacture a face and facial expressions, a voice and mannerisms. So that's a bigger problem. And we have some cognitive biases that all of us have that makes us believe this. First of all, visual trust. We trust what we see. We're not like dogs.
Right.
We don't recognize people by their smell. We trust what we see.
Right.
There are familiarity biases. So if we see something that's familiar, like the face of our grandchild, and there's an emotional override, so that if we're scared that our grandchild is being taken advantage of, our emotions get involved. And in 2026, there's real-time face swapping during an AI conversation. There are AI scripts that change depending on what people are saying. The costs of this kind of scams are low, especially if you've kidnapped your workforce. And what has made me particularly interested in teaching this is that when I started this law firm 12 years ago, there was no social media marketing. There was you didn't have to be familiar with tech to run a law firm.
Sure.
But that tech has become such a part of our lives. And a lot of times seniors are not, educated about tech. And frankly, I work with tech every day. And I get very angry at tech.
Okay.
It's hard to stay up to date with tech.
Right.
It's hard to stay up to date with tech. So there are grandparent scams where the voice sounds real and the face looks real, and they ask you for money. Now, another big type of scams is government impersonation. So somebody calls or texts you or sends you an email. And I'm from the IRS, I'm from Social Security, I'm from Medicare, or I'm from local law enforcement. And this has just gotten more and more. I mean, I remember when I got a scam. Oh, you missed jury duty, and you've got to go down to the local store and buy me a gift card and send it to me.
Wow.
And I'm the police, and that was easy for me to say. Oh, that's not real.
Sure.
But over time, they've become so much more practiced at doing this. The people in these pig butchering places are getting scripts.
Got it.
And they're working 17-hour days, and they're getting told they don't meet their quota. So authority plus urgency will lead us into compliance. So authority triggers instant obedience, not just for old people, for all of us.
Right.
So we get that, and they say, "Oh, we need you." They come. We just need your Medicaid card, or your Medicare card, whatever, your Medicare number. We just need your Social Security number. We just need, and this can. I'm talking about old people, but frankly, this can happen to anyone.
Yep.
This can happen to anyone. Now, the biggest thing, though, that I've seen blow up in my practice is romance scams. And I think that's been targeted to older people because, well, partly it's because in America, we don't live in a big extended family. A lot of times. I was telling you, I've won the parenthood lottery. All 5 of my children and my children, my husband's children live in town.
Yeah.
But that's so unusual.
Right.
So we're not living in a place where we have companionship. And we're not living in a place where we say, "Oh, somebody called me today and they claim to know me." And our kids go, no, that's not, so we're living alone. Now, I love Mark Twain, and I love this quote from Mark Twain. It's easier to fool someone than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. Okay. So, scammers are looking at the dark web. So if you've been scammed once, you are a target. They are reading obituaries. I'm convinced that they're reading obituaries because, we're seeing a lot of clients 3 years after dad died, suddenly they discover that mom has been scammed out of her life savings. Oh. People are getting random calls, and you've probably gotten random calls. You've probably quit responding to random calls. Mm-hmm. Most of us have. We're getting people who are responding to us. And seniors can feel lonely, and we're not educating them, and we're not putting guardrails around this. Now, I don't really know what the law can do to prevent this from happening. I'm doing a program for lawyers all across the state of Tennessee in July on this, and I'm teaming up with a forensic psychiatrist and somebody from the TBI. And as I go through this, you'll understand why. What are the few cases where the TBI can help people? Because they have recovered some money.
Okay.
So I'm not an expert yet on which cases ought to be reported to the TBI, but I will say this. For people out there that are listening, get over your shame. Mm-hmm. You are just one of many of us. One of many. Report it. Okay. So, there are. Hold on. You look at my notes for just a second. Let me read you a story.
Sure.
this is not about a client. I can't talk about clients. This is a short story about Margaret. Margaret is 72. She's been widowed for 6 years. She met somebody online. That could be a text or a call, a wrong number, or dating apps, or Facebook, or Instagram, or any of it. She met someone online, a man who said he was an engineer working overseas. He was attentive and consistent. He said good morning every day. He asked about her late husband. He remembered the names of all of her grandchildren. And for the first time in years, she felt seen. After 3 months, he told her he wanted to come home to Texas or to Tennessee and start a life with her. But there was a problem. His equipment had been seized. He needed help covering a customs fee so he could access his contract payment. It was $18,000. He told her not to tell anyone. People won't understand it. So she sent him the money. And then there was another fee. Then there was a tax. Then there was emergency surgery. Over 8 months, she sent him more than $200,000. This is not an unusual amount of money. $200,000. Her savings. Then a home equity line of credit. Her son found out when she asked him how to wire money to Turkey. When he tried to tell her it was a scam, she defended the man. She said, "You're trying to take away the only person who cares about me." Now we've reached the sad part of this, because people, in order to realize that they've been scammed, have to give up on this love interest. And we want love as much as we want to breathe.
Right.
But by the time she accepted the truth, the money was gone. But what stayed was the shame. She told investigators, "Please don't let anyone know. I feel so stupid." So that's a typical story. Now, what I've seen, I'm not going to talk to you, as I said, about reporting it to the police and what you can get back. But there is a way for lawyers to help you.
Okay.
There are 3 categories of response. There's the person who says, "Oh, I realize I did it." I know someone whose grandson was looking at her phone. He saw one of those encrypted apps, Signal, WhatsApp, and he knew what was happening. And she was able to say, "Oh, I know. I understand what happened." And I want to say the AARP, which is calling this Scamageddon,
Wow.
has got support groups
Okay.
for people who've been scammed and for the children of the people who've been scammed. And I like that. Okay, so that's one person who says, "Okay, I understand that I've been scammed." There is a person who will meet a diagnosis. So, and to step in and help people, attorneys can get a conservatorship. They can get the power over your money to make this stop happening. Mm-hmm. They can even get the power over your medical decisions, depending on your diagnosis. And so sometimes the children have come to us, which is usually what happens, and there is a diagnosis. And based on that diagnosis, we can get the court to agree that a child or some other trusted individual can be appointed a conservator. Now, in some states, this is called guardianship. In Tennessee, this is called conservatorship. And you can get conservatorship over the property of your loved one and over medical decisions.
Got it.
Okay. But sometimes... And so I'm talking to you about someone who's being scammed. They can't recognize it, but there's a diagnosis and you can get a conservatorship. Then there's seniors that can't recognize that they're being scammed, and yet they don't meet the traditional bounds of not able to manage their money according to, for example, a forensic psychiatrist. That's why I'm doing this program with a forensic psychiatrist, because she's writing up some of these cases for the American College of what am I trying to say? Gerontologists.
Okay.
Because some of the ways to measure your competence to deal with money is, can you make change? No, I don't even make change anymore.
Right. Nobody does, right?
We need to change that so that psychiatrists can say, do you understand that you're being scammed? And, it's just, we had a client where he was told, well, we just need you to pay taxes on this. Just pay us $30,000 in taxes, and we'll let you have all the $500,000 of profit that you've made in this gold trading scheme. And she was like, but wait, when have you ever had to pay taxes instead of them withholding tax? But, so it can get hard, but I've been able to get conservatorships over everyone so far. So that's why you need to reach out to a lawyer if this is happening. Now, sometimes people have powers of attorney. Powers of attorney are documents that would let your child make financial decisions for you or make medical decisions for you. They're called powers of attorney. And in Tennessee, typically we do 2 powers of attorney. One that gives you power over a loved one's finances. And frankly, you don't have to be old to have this. I actually think that when your children go off to college, you should have them sign this.
Yep.
If your kids get sick in college, you might need this. And back when my kids went to college, there was encephalitis going around.
Okay.
Just saying. So, like when I married my husband 20 years ago, I dragged him through every bit of this planning. We all need this. And so you can have a power of attorney, but the problem with powers of attorney is they can be revoked.
Okay. Got it.
So you can say, I'm revoking that power of attorney. I'm not going to let you make my decisions for me anymore. You're not listening to me.
No.
Right. So that's why going to court becomes a necessity for the people who can't realize they're being scammed. Okay.
And make sure I understand, in the conservatorship, the kids would come to you. They would be the ones that would start the case. And then even though the senior may not agree with it, the judge can override and give them
absolutely
to the family.
And I've had cases where the senior says to the judge, that's not true. You can't take that power away from me. I know Fred and I are married. We exchanged vows over the telephone. It's, it's a crazy world. But we have been able to get conservatorships. Now, here's the advice that I would give to everyone. The advice I'd give to seniors: look for those red flags. Look for the urgency. My husband, for example, who's a great guy, does Duolingo because he wants to learn German.
Okay.
The whole time I've lived with him, he's wanted to learn German. Maybe it's Dr. Freud. I don't know. Anyway, he started getting contacted over Zoom by women who speak German, and they're so attractive. And
I'm sure
they must have looked up his age.
I'm sure he's a looker, though. I'm sure he's looking.
But he's a good catch. Anyway, it can happen anywhere. So look for those red flags.
German gold diggers, huh?
Yeah. People you don't know. Okay. A random call. People who have a sense of urgency about getting money from you. That's the biggest red flag. When that happens, you know this is not a friend. In fact, I would say to seniors, isolation is one of the biggest factors that affects our life expectancy.
Wow.
Get yourself out there somehow. 50 Forward has a wonderful program in our area, but there are other ways. I remember I teach law students. I make them read all this stuff, but one idea that I got from the New York Times, which used to run a lot of articles for seniors, was rethink the idea of home. Now, all of us boomers, we want to die at home. Well, let me tell you, home can be isolating. If there had been assisted living for single moms, I probably would have signed up. Home can be isolating. Home can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but make sure you get together with a circle of friends, work on not being isolated. That really is a cause of dying sooner than other people. Yeah. So get yourself a circle of friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, for children of seniors, I'd say get your parents to sign a power of attorney. Now, tell them this. Now, I tell all my staff, someday I'm going to be ornery and demented. Someday I'm going to say, I'm not going to sign the power of attorney. Get them to sign it now. Get trusted people. Now, any lawyer in the state of Tennessee can draft a power of attorney.
Okay.
It's all in the statute books. But because of what I do, and I teach powers, I do a lot of teaching. I teach law students and I teach lawyers all across the state of Tennessee. I teach people in Nashville through the Nashville Bar Association. But one of the things I teach is powers of attorney. So you might need some extra powers. One thing I'd really consider is at least give your children the ability to read your accounts online. That way they'll know whether you're being scammed.
Wow.
They'll get a clue whether you're being scammed. Now, we also, in our powers of attorney, include some things to help you get on Medicaid. I'm not going to go off on that. But we also include the power to delete apps, delete messages, delete text messages, delete phone messages, and to even change your telephone number.
Oh.
And that can be very helpful. So I just want to get the word out there. Now, you may have some questions. I tend to pound people down with information.
That's awesome. No, that's great. That's what we need right now, because there's so many seniors that are just getting, taken to the cleaners.
They're getting taken advantage of.
Oh yeah. We had a lady that, somebody told them to call us because she was having challenges with finances but she had a paid off house. The challenge, when we come to get to the bottom of it, it was she met someone online. They were in the military overseas. And as they were on their way home, they got stopped by foreign authorities and they needed to pay a toll or tax. So she sent money. And then they had problems with the boats in the Caribbean. She had to send more money, but she kept sending the money because he was coming back for the wedding. And
that's right.
She didn't need any help with finances because he was going to pay off her house, and then he had tons of money, right? And that was the short version.
Oh, isn't that heartbreaking?
And then it was 70 years old, lonely, and it's just we don't hear about it as much as we think we should because of the shame, and people are not going to tell because they know in their heart of hearts they're probably getting scammed, but as long as they don't tell anybody. Right. No one's going to tell them they're crazy, and they can still live on this mythical idea that he's coming.
Right.
That makes sense.
They know, or maybe they don't know.
Yep. We hear about it.
We want love as much as we want to breathe.
You're exactly right. So that's just amazing that you're helping with that on top of everything else you do. Maybe could you share a little bit with us that say that if you are a senior or you are a son or daughter of a senior, what's kind of the basics? Like, hey, everybody should at least do this. Where should somebody start if they've, got a 65-year-old parent and they're in their 40s and they want to prepare them for a long, 20 to 30 years of a successful retirement?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd say if you're in your 30s or 40s, your parent is still competent. And competence, by the way, is not a diagnosis. Competence is something that lawyers determine.
Okay.
Because you need different levels of competence to do different things.
Got it.
For example, you might have just been diagnosed with dementia. If you still know what a contract is and you want your children to help you, go see a lawyer and try to get that power of attorney signed.
Okay.
Okay. So powers of attorney are very powerful. Then that's the minimum. Everybody needs workable powers of attorney. Even if you're not being scammed, if you don't give your children a power of attorney, someday they might have to get a conservatorship. Now, here's the problem with conservatorships. They will save these people from being scammed, but typically you've got to go hire a lawyer. The lawyer has to file a petition to have someone named as conservator. The judge appoints a lawyer called the guardian ad litem, the guardian for this litigation. And that person's job is to determine, do you need a conservator? And if so, whom should it be? Okay. But you're ornery and demented, like I intend to be someday. And you say, I don't need a conservator. Well, the judge can't just take your rights away from you. The judge has to appoint another lawyer to be the attorney ad litem, to be the attorney for this litigation, to represent your interests. Now, just between you and me, I want that person to be someone with good judgment.
Okay.
Because it's not a fight until the death moment, because under the rules of ethics, you can take into account not just your client's desire for autonomy, but what their true needs are.
Got it.
And you can say to the court, Your Honor, my client doesn't have any defense to this. Or you can say, Your Honor, my client doesn't want this conservatorship. And that's what I'm looking for. Someone that takes into account their client's true needs. Now you've realized, though, with that road I've gone down, your family is now 3 lawyers deep. So it's so much better to do powers of attorney while you're still capable of doing it. Pick someone you can trust, of course. Pick someone you can trust. That person has a duty to account to you or whatever for, whenever you want to. And now sometimes people say, well, can I pick all my children? And I say, have your children ever fought? So I like to pick one child and another child as a successor attorney, in fact. So I'm an attorney at law. That means I can help people under the law. An attorney, in fact, can help you make decisions because of this document.
Okay.
So you pick somebody to be your agent. You pick somebody to be the successor agent. And truly, it is not an honor. This is an obligation.
Got it.
Like for your healthcare power of attorney, it might be the person who has to say, turn the machines off. That's what my mom would have wanted. It's an obligation. So get those documents in place.
Makes sense. Yep. And it's better to do that sooner rather than later, it sounds like.
Yeah. Now, there's also one more document. So all the famous cases of people who haven't expressed their end-of-life wishes were women in their 20s. A lot of your listeners are going to remember Terry Schiavo, from Florida that it must have. When that was going on, I thought, "Wow, this is costing hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal fees." But the only famous case that went up to the Supreme Court was a woman in her 20s that was thrown out of a car in a car wreck, and they fished her out of 3 inches of water, and she was brain dead.
Okay.
And the Supreme Court said we always need to get to make our own healthcare decisions when we have capacity. But at some point when we don't, you need to have expressed what your end of life wishes are.
Got it.
So lawyers started to draft something called living wills. And they can be a lot of blah, blah, blah. But most importantly, they cover only one of two conditions, one or possibly two conditions. They cover when you're in a coma or when you're in the final stages of a terminal illness, and you get to express what your wishes are for treatment, for heroic treatment. You always get pain management. You always get everything you want to eat and drink, but you get to express your wishes. Now, that's when lawyers started to draft living wills. But like I say, they only cover those two conditions. So what do they not cover? They don't cover dementia. The latest figures are at the age of 55, we have a 42% lifetime risk of dementia.
What?
Now, the reason those numbers are going up is not because dementia is increasing. It's because we're living longer.
Not.
And they really haven't discovered what causes dementia. But we're living longer, and we do know that it's associated with age for sure.
Got it.
So I like a 2-page form, and I almost never recommend doing forms from the internet. But this is the one that's an exception.
Okay.
You can go to the Tennessee government website and look for advanced directives. Doctors and lawyers in Tennessee have come together to put together this 2-page form that covers 4 different conditions: coma, last stages of a terminal illness, dementia, and I love the way they define it. I can no longer recognize or have clear conversation with my loved ones. And then if you're dependent in all activities of daily living, you can't walk, talk, and you say, that would be an acceptable way for me to live, or that wouldn't be an acceptable way for me to live. And then if it's not acceptable, you still get to decide whether you want treatment for a new condition, IV fluids, be kept alive on a ventilator, and CPR. And this form can either be notarized, your signature can be notarized, or your signature can be witnessed by people who aren't taking under your will.
Got it.
So you can even change your mind, pull another form off the internet, and change your mind.
Makes sense.
So I do recommend that people get that done. For the rest of that, take the step, contact a lawyer. It's worth it. It's worth it. You know, one of our taglines is planning for peace of mind.
Wow.
We all know somewhere deep down that we're going to die and we might get disabled. Right. All right, I'm going to tell you my only joke.
Let's hear it.
Okay. There are 2 guys standing next to the gallows waiting to be executed. And they have the hoods over their heads, and one of them nudges the other one and says, "You know, this is worse than public speaking."
Oh my gosh, that is nuts. That's awesome. Well, I love that you said peace of mind, because, you know, like you said, if you got your affairs in order, you got things planned out, that's one less thing to worry about. So it gives you peace of mind. And then what we see quite often is we just had a client recently where I was in Memphis at an event and wasn't able to be at the closing. So she called from the reverse mortgage closing. And usually a call from closing, as you could guess, you know, no one ever calls and says anything good. It's usually a misspelled name or something. So I was like, oh gosh, what's going on? So I answered the phone, and it was like this long pause. And she said, it was just like, "I just need to tell you thank you." And I was like, well, you're welcome. What do you mean? She said, well, and another long pause. And she just said, my real estate agent gave me your phone number and your name and number sat on my desk for 2 years. She said, because I, read about reverse mortgages, heard about a lot of the stuff that you mentioned earlier, right? Everyone thinks everything's a scam. So she heard all these things and she never got around to calling because she tried to figure out other ways to survive with her finances because, what if we were what if we were lumped in with the foreign boyfriend and the Middle East that got lost in the boat and needed the money, right? So she said, you don't understand, though, the concern and the worry I've had for the last couple of years. And she said, I just feel the peace of mind and the weight's off my back because she had a $2,000 a month mortgage.
That's right.
She had a $900,000 home and she only owed $200,000, but she was making these payments and her husband died and her finances were cut in half and all these different things.
That's right. That's exactly the right time to get a reverse mortgage.
That peace of mind, she just said, the only word I know to say is thank you. And I can't tell you how much this is going to help me, So
that's lovely.
It's pretty awesome that your business and our business all has the ability to give people that comfort because they've worked too hard and lived too long and been through too many crazy things in their lifetime to worry.
That's right.
67, you should be enjoying.
And if they were completely destitute, no problem.
Exactly. So that's so awesome. That's what you do.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to connect you. Well, anything that, two things. One, how would people get in touch with you and how's the best way to connect with you and your firm, first of all? And then
you can find me on the internet. Okay. The telephone number for my office, let's see if I can remember it. I'm looking for my card.
That's okay. Take your time. You don't call yourself. We get it.
I don't call myself. It's 615-852-5602.
Okay.
And when you call my office, this is interesting, we charge for consultations $400. And the reason is when you call my office, you get put on my calendar. But then somebody's going to call you and gather information to make sure we can help you and to get an idea of what we need to be thinking about.
Okay.
So that we don't just say, hey, if you hire us, we'll help you come up with a plan. When people come to see us, we say, we think what you need to do is estate planning. Or we think what you need to do is apply for Medicaid. We can get you on Medicaid. Medicaid can pay for your skilled nursing facility, whatever.
Wow.
We already know something. So we love helping people. And I've got a great staff.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah. And Ms. Barbara, what areas do you serve? Is it over the phone or people come see you or the right area?
There are 51 different versions of Medicaid.
Okay.
There in every state. So we only serve people in Tennessee.
Okay.
Now, and so sometimes we'll take a case. It's rare that we'll take there's plenty of, if you have somebody that needs to get on Medicaid, there are very few lawyers in Nashville that know how to do it.
Got it.
Maybe 2 or 3.
Got it.
I know. So we don't, but we take from surrounding counties.
Okay.
We take cases from surrounding counties.
Makes sense. That's great. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about, before we run, maybe give us a specific example of like the Medicaid where, and can't tell us about a client, but maybe like,
sure,
if you're this, and this, you'd be a great candidate to call us.
Okay. Well, I do a presentation called 5 Buckets of Money.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And in that presentation, I talk about reverse mortgages.
Got it.
Because your assets, that's the only thing complicated is reverse mortgages, really.
Yeah.
Okay. But Medicare doesn't pay for assisted living. And it doesn't really pay for nursing homes either. Well, first of all, okay, 5 buckets of money, private assets, long-term care insurance. Only 10% of people 65 and older have long-term care insurance.
Right.
You don't have to feel ashamed.
Right.
If you don't have it. It's really an asset preservation strategy as much as it is a way to afford things.
Yep.
Okay. The third bucket of money is veterans aid and attendance.
Nice. Yeah.
If you're the widow of someone who was a wartime veteran, or if you were a wartime veteran, you can qualify for the government to help you. I'm not going to get deep into that. Then there's Medicare, which, like I say, doesn't pay for assisted living generally. It doesn't really pay for nursing home care either. If you've been actually admitted to a hospital and need rehab, Medicare will pay for 20 days in rehab, and it'll pay for a part of the next 80 days.
Got it.
At day 101, Medicare pays for nothing for a nursing home.
Got it.
So then there's Medicaid, 51 versions of Medicaid.
Wow.
And in Tennessee, you have to be sick enough, your income has to be low enough, and your assets have to be low enough. If you think you're going downhill, or if you have a parent that's going downhill, it's time to call an elder law attorney.
Got it.
And find out what you need to do to plan, because there are things you can do to plan to qualify for Medicaid.
Okay.
You can put money into an irrevocable. They're just things you can do. It's extremely complicated. Or maybe dad just had a fall. He had a head injury, or he had a stroke, and now the doctor is saying he's got to go into a nursing home. Pick up the phone and call. Wow. Because we can get you onto Medicaid. It might be complicated. Sometimes it's very complicated, but we can do it. And awesome. Really sick enough is often the defining characteristic.
Okay.
Income low enough, that's kind of a paper tiger.
Yeah.
Assets low enough, there are ways usually to spend down and qualify for Medicaid.
Makes sense. That's awesome. Well, so glad that you are the expert on that and able to share that with people, because, when people get in that situation, right, the stress level increases. So then their ability to navigate all the paperwork and everything just goes off the charts. We've got so many folks that'll call us and they're staying up 24/7 with their kid, or with their parent, and they're trying to work through all that. And then after they're exhausted, tired, stressed out, then they're trying to navigate all this paperwork, and there's
That's
just
right.
no shot.
That's right.
So that's great. And I love, you mentioned about the long-term care insurance. I saw a stat that 70% of all of us will need it, right? But only, like you said, 10% of us actually get it. And that's what I love about the reverse mortgage space, is because everybody was planning on buying long-term care insurance, right? You sit down with someone, they slide you here's how much it is a month, right? And you're in your 30s and 40s, and you've got to pay for soccer and sports and the minivan and the house, and the kid's like, well, I'll get it later, right? And later turned into 30 years that you never got.
Once you have a diagnosis, you can't get it. Right.
And then everybody was going to, you're going to max out your 401k next month, or you're going to do the Roth IRA next month, and you wake up, and it's 30 and 40 years and you never got around to it. But what you did do is you probably bought a house, because most humans like to live indoors. And as most closing attorneys say at the closing on a traditional loan, right? Well, here's your document, no pay, no stay, right? If on a regular mortgage, if you don't make your payments, you don't get to stay there. So most of these folks bought a house and they made all the payments, not because they wanted to, but because they had to.
That's right.
And fortunately, the market, inflation works in your favor if you own a house. So the value's gone up. So it's kind of like, I call these loans second chances, right? Second chance at the 401k, second chance at the long-term care. So that's what we love. What we do is partner with people like you, is just how they can do a small percentage of their home equity to prepare for long-term care, prepare for expenses. Or if you're well enough off, you could literally send your grandkids on vacations and not have a monthly payment. And there's all different options for these. There's no strings, no ties.
That's right.
It allows people to use equity.
And the only security that the bank has is your house.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you mentioned scams. I love the question. I'll get that half the time. Is this that loan where you and Tom Selleck show up and steal our house and steal our equity? That's what you're like. What the good news is that's all the old days and wives' tales, right? It's just, these are FHA mortgages. You still own your house. You can still sell your house, and you can still give your home to your kids. It's just a regular mortgage that doesn't require a payment. So
that's right.
We're glad to help people any way we can. Yeah. Well,
this has been lovely to do this.
Well,
do we have a time that we're supposed to meet, or can we just say we've done it?
No, we did awesome. You did awesome.
Well,
Anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you, you'd let me know?
No, I think we covered everything. Thank you so much, Matt.
Well, thank you for being on here. I really do appreciate all your advice and wisdom.
And have a great day.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for watching the Serving Seniors podcast, where I highlight these awesome people like Miss Barbara that help seniors not survive, but thrive in retirement. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode. Hey, this is Matt Helton with OneTrust Home Loans, home of Retirement Mortgage Solutions. And we really do appreciate you checking out the Serving Seniors podcast today. Now, please go to the description down in the body of the podcast where you can subscribe to get future shows. Please click that notification button so you get notified when other shows drop. And also, if you can go to servingseniorspodcast.com, and we'd love to hear a comment about our show. We have a heart to serve seniors, and we have a heart to make sure seniors don't just survive retirement, don't just get by in retirement. We want to show seniors how to thrive in retirement. So if you know of anyone that's 55 and older that could use some extra cash flow, maybe the retirement's not going the way that they like, our retirement mortgage solutions are designed for folks, and depending on the state, they're either 55 or 62 and older, to make sure that they have that kind of retirement that they want. As long as they own a home and they're in a good equity position, there could be some solutions that they may not have thought about, or maybe they've thought of and they just didn't know how they work. That's what we do. So anyone in that age group that could use some mortgage advice, my team and I would love to be able to help them. Thanks again, and look forward to seeing you on the next show. Have a great day.